Hi, and thanks for joining us for the F64 Lunch Bunch. Each episode, we have a panel of creatives that are joined by some of the top talents in the photography world. This show, no exception. Due to technical difficulties, we did not get a recording on the first half of this show, so we're going to pick it up at the halfway mark. Thanks again for joining us for lunch.
The right decisions, the question will be how long was that right decision and how long will we maintain it?
Yeah. I just heard the mayor of New York get on saying that nobody will go hungry. Nobody. So if you know anybody that needs food, we will get food to those people. And I thought, geez, why can't we do that always?
But right. And you know, that's my, you know, I'm an Irish Catholic guy. And so I've always, I always said that the number of people that the church is constantly feeding, that's the place for those things to be done, and try to reach out to those people. My wife is a career firefighter, and she's a fire captain. She was in quarantine for 2 weeks. And because of an exposure, she ran to a nursing home. They were not protected. And all 5 of her crew actually were sent home. I'm like, wait a second, why are you sending them home? Now you're exposing the families. And so some of those guys were single. So we dropped food off at their doors and things like that, because that was not part of the plan.
Right.
They had not considered those things. But yes, the more things that we can do as a community and help each other out. I will say, inspirationally, I'm actually seeing firefighters who are aspiring photographers that from my own old department that actually was shooting stuff showing the flags flying and the reflection of the new bay doors of their fire station. So, and I gave him some tips of maybe some things to work some things out. Take this opportunity and do those webinars and talk to those folks. Inspire the next generation of people, because they'll still need the artistic inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any specific questions for Richard on PPE stuff?
I've got a quick one. For Richard, just in terms of handwear. This morning I did my 7 a.m. supermarket run with my mask. I've been using, Sheila's got a container of Lysol wipes in both cars, and I wiped down my cart, and then I did my shopping. I wiped my hands off before I got back into my car, didn't touch my face, washed my hands. But while in the market, I saw everybody wearing everything from Playtex gloves to garden gloves to one of the guys had on those heavy rawhide lumberjack construction gloves. I don't even know what you call them. Is there any, is the real issue, you mentioned the port of entry, is the real issue here just making sure you wash your hands, and does it make a difference if you're wearing 8 layers of gloves and everything else?
So the only real reason to actually have a glove on, one is if you're working with a patient, you don't want to minimize that, okay? But if you have an open sore on your hand, if you had a cut or something else that's a avenue of entry into the body, then you might want to have a glove on. Other than that, the only thing that glove is doing, because if you touch the basket, you touch the bag of chips, you go to the grocery store, you check out, you reach into your wallet, you take the stuff that's on your glove and you touch your credit card to plug it into the credit card machine, even though you're not exchanging it with the cashier. All those things are touch, 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 touch. So somebody sent me a photograph the other day of actually somebody standing in the checkout line, and because his phone wouldn't operate with the gloved hand, he had to pull the glove off with his mouth. And it was hanging outside his mouth. And I went like, well, thank you. The answer is you're trying your very best to minimize contamination. A gloved hand will just be a barrier for your hand, and it's still going to transmit things from place to place.
Got it.
So I personally don't wear gloves in public anywhere. The only reason I'm wearing a mask in the grocery store is because the grocery store is requiring it. I'm trying to do social isolation, try to do my best to minimize those times to the grocery store. Spending quality time with my daughter. I have a 6-year-old. I'm the old dad. So,
any other PPE questions?
I will say I do find when I'm wearing gloves, it does keep me from touching my face because I realize I'm wearing a glove. And I mean, that's just my own personal thing. But, I lift my hand up and it's blue, so I shouldn't touch my face.
So question, do you think that we should wear masks when we go for walks?
So if you're going for a walk, it depends on the environment. If you're in an urban environment where there's lots of other people that might be within 6 foot, or some people are showing missed studies that are 12 feet or whatever else. If you're going jogging, I wouldn't wear a mask, because the amount of time that you're going to be around somebody else is minimal. If you're 10 of you going running together and you're 6 feet apart, you might want to consider revisiting that. There's lots of people that are doing things socially, that are going out jogging. But I would, the mask itself is, if you're distantly from other people, there's not a real, or if you're sick, if you're feeling you've got the cough, whatever else, wear a mask, because you're helping protect.
If you're sick, you should stay home.
Yeah.
But
Richard,
the reason why I asked that is
vitamin D is a good thing. You live in a warm environment, get outside. That's a good thing too, though. So
yeah, the reason why I asked that is because we were on a walk the other day, and we didn't have masks on. We live in a very, very quiet community, not a lot of people around. But there was somebody like up on a banner, like fixing from the village, fixing something, and I thought, and it was a windy day, and I said to Bob, if he sneezes, should we be wearing?
He was very far away.
He was far away, but still, I wasn't sure. I mean, I usually wear a mask when I go to the grocery store, but I don't, not on walks. So I was just thinking out loud.
There's some studies out there that show some of the sneeze studies and things like that, that there's trace amounts that get up to 20 feet. 12 foot is some of the more recent math. Still, you got to think about one particular organism has to be able to infect you. So you have to have an infective dose to actually affect you. So there's a lot of those, there's variables, lots of variables when it comes to epidemiology, as you can tell by listening to even the conversations between the experts.
Well, we appreciate your input on this very much, Richard.
Hey, Stephen made a comment here, more related to the school market. I wonder if the virus situation means that smaller photography businesses might eventually take a bite out of the senior photo business that often goes to the large photography mills like Lifetouch, because school will be out and Lifetouch won't have access to the clients who might be willing to pay a real pro to shoot their child later this summer or even later. I think that's definitely happening. I think it's happening already.
It's absolutely happening, because that's a bit more of our
market. In fact, that's what, is that fair to say that's about half your business?
Yeah.
Is the senior market?
Towards 70%. Yeah. Okay. We do a lot of senior and school sports and things too. We do a lot of events with our schools. One idea I'll give out to the community is something we're designing now, and a couple of my friends are ahead of me on this. We're artists. We can make things for our communities. Yard signs, we're making them for our senior classes, for our schools. And, it's got our senior's picture on it and say, proud family of a high school senior. Because again, they feel cheated right now. Whether they will get a graduation later or not, they feel cheated right now. So anything you can do to celebrate them, put it on your shoot-proof gallery. Let them buy it there. Process it. We're doing contactless pickup. We literally stake it out in the front yard and they can drive by and pick it up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because you've mentioned shoot-proof twice, and I have a shoot-proof account myself, although for what I shoot, I don't use it a lot. What is everybody using for photo distribution, proofing, things like that?
Shoot-proof for us.
Yeah.
We're using Pixie Set.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Skip, did you want to do those sites?
Oh, I just had one. Did we have anybody else?
I've got two other ones, some super stuff that's out too.
Let's throw those in. Pull up the one that I sent you. This was just from
hold on 2 seconds. Let me grab it up here. And there we go. Okay. Should see it now.
PPA just had a post they ran yesterday or the day before on economic injury disaster loans / grant programs. And then an hour later, I saw somebody respond back showing the confirmation that he had gotten after filling out the application or whatever's there. So for those of you that have issues related to your business and are looking for help on the financing, there's help out there. And we've been sharing all these links as we find them. I think the very first one that we had was from Bobby Lane on Fannie Mae mortgages. So there's a lot more out there. If you're a member of PPA, don't forget to follow the PPA website, because there's a lot of good stuff that they're sharing on any of these loan / grant programs. And I don't know what are the other ones you got?
So this one is Sue Bryce, who I know that you know. Portrait System, it's a podcast that they're doing. So if you're looking for some content, it's every Monday with Nikki Closer. And you can see from the guest list, just some amazing people are on here. So there's a podcast option for you. And the reason that one even came to my mind was this. Sue Bryce Education is doing their library during this close-in time. It's free from April 20 to 26th.
That's
so
awesome.
Again, if you're looking for content, if you're looking for anything like that, here's another resource for you. 6 days of free content from Sue Bryce Education. So that's a couple of things for you that you can get into.
And there was one that I shared the other day. I can't remember what it was though, but Larry might know. It was from Kelby Media. And was it $3 for 30 days or $3 for $5 for 30 days?
Yep.
Okay. So there was a program that's out there going over to Kelby Media. And everybody, this is a really great time. I mean, one of the first guests we had on the show that talked about things he wanted to do, Joe McNally talked about he was determined to learn Final Cut Pro during this downtime. This is a crazy time. And I mean, I found it today. Sheila and I take turns over anxiety levels. And it's usually related to one of us making a mistake to watching the news. And it's not just the pandemic anymore. It's thousands of cars and people waiting in line for food. So it goes so much deeper than those of us that are in areas that were almost untouched by certain problems. And like Richard said a few minutes ago, if you're depending on where you're living, you've got a different set of issues to worry about. And it's really important. I think one is to limit your intake of information, but two, pay attention to all these opportunities out there to get something out of this besides anxiety, because there's a lot of good stuff out there and there's a lot of help out there. And I have one question I want to throw out to the group. On our guest list here is Tom Alvarez. Now, Tom and I have met literally while I stood on my front porch and he was 6 feet away, because I was able to get him some cameras for his class. In fact, I was going to go down to talk to the photography kids. And that was when all the schools shut down. Tom had a question on model releases. If you're photographing an inanimate object, specifically like I don't know, a hot rod, a car, an incredible model car that you're photographing for something, do you need a model release on that 67 GTO you're about to photograph?
I do have some knowledge in this area. On Jack Rosnicki, I would refer to anybody. He's got a blog about copyright.
Right. Him and Ed Greenberg. Yeah, the copyrightzone.com.
Yes, great resource. But in the instance you're referring to with the hot rod car, if it is in public and the vehicle itself is not copyrighted, like some property is copyrighted, like the Wrigley Building in Chicago.
Monet prints.
Yes, if I do an engagement session with a couple and they want to go to the Wrigley Building and the Wrigley Building is prominent in the background, technically I can't photograph them with that in the background because that building is copyrighted and you need a property release for it. Right. But in the instance of the hot rod, if it's just in public and you're not on someone's private property to go up and photograph it, it's fair game. Unless, again, it's something like, what was that monster truck, Gravedigger. So Gravedigger, that vehicle and the logo and the design of it is a copyrighted hot rod. So if you photograph that even at a four-wheel drive truck event, if it's for your own personal use, it's fine. But if you tried to sell a cool limited edition wall art print of Gravedigger, you'd be in trouble without having a property release on it.
Yeah. Okay, so Tom, I hope that helped answer the question a little bit.
And don't hold him to it because I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I've been victim of this a little bit, so I do enough research and I try and stay on top of it, and I read Jack's site. I had an instance when I was back at the Chicago Sun-Times. I had a very unique photograph of Michael Jordan doing a slam dunk behind his head was the first series where they finally defeated the Detroit Pistons on their way to their first NBA championship. Well, back then at the paper, anybody could walk in to public resources and buy a print. Well,
somebody did.
Yep, somebody did. Bigsby and Crothers was a big clothing store in Chicago, and they had an alliance with Michael Jordan. They bought the print, they silk screened it, and they made a tie, and they sold it globally for $50 a tie. Now, we shared copyright with the paper, and I was all over it. I'm like, look, this tie is out. They're selling it back then at Marshall Fields. I wanted an injunction to stop sales until they did right by it. But the paper was so afraid to offend Jordan that he would cut us off. That they're like, well, we're not going to go after it. You only have 50% of the copyright because it was shared. So dead in the water. So I've followed copyright ever since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not registering your images, register your images with the Copyright Office.
And they've made that even easier than ever now.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question here that I'm going to try and answer. You guys can feel free to jump in too. It was from Ron, who said, hey, Skip, any thoughts on how this will affect next year's WPPI? Well, the fun thing is that I've now been gone from WPPI for 11 years. So that's a good thing.
No.
But the bad, no. But the bad thing is, I don't think any of us know. I mean, we're hoping and praying that ClickCon happens. That's the first week of August. That's coming up. I don't think any of us know yet. And my frustration through all of this is, and I've said it before, is listening to the experts argue over whose crystal ball is more accurate. Now, this year's WPPI attendance, they claim, actually came up a little bit from last year. It was a smaller show than they've ever had in terms of the actual footprint of the trade show itself. But the courses, the classes were well attended. There was a lot of interest in education. But if you think about it, WPPI just snuck in under the wire.
Just barely.
Yeah.
So did NAM in Anaheim in January.
Yeah. I mean, if WPPI had happened 2 weeks later, it wouldn't have happened. So they just made it. So I think everybody is hoping and praying that we get back to some level of normalcy. And I think that whoever gets that first show out there after this is over, it's going to be one massive celebration.
And I do have the Kelby deal that you guys mentioned, and it's actually not just the $5 for 30 days. They've got a number of different plans. They've got the Plus Monthly, which gives you, up to 300 courses for just $3 for a month. $5 for a month gets you 800 courses and a bunch of other stuff. And their normal membership is only $159 right now for a year. So Kelby doing some, as would be expected, some nice deals during this time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing comments that anybody wants to make? Because we're
one of the
over.
takeaways that I have from today, Skip, is something you mentioned. I think it's a really clever idea. People are going to want photography of this time. They're going to want an image of themselves during the quarantine. And I loved your idea of somebody maybe being in their car in the street, taking a picture of you and your wife sitting on your front porch. I can imagine there has got to be a big market for that kind of thing. And we could coin it that it came from Skip, the idea of commercial drive-by shootings.
Well, no,
yeah, I wouldn't call it that.
No, be careful on that one.
That's called Hitman, and they have a union.
I got that idea from somebody else.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Pass the name. That's what that is.
The front porch is called front porch photography, and it's been all over the news.
Yeah, well, Chicago's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, hats off to her. She's been doing a great job in Chicago, as well as the governor and first responders, outstanding. But they're saying literally non-essential things, stay home, because what they found has happened is, let's say you're going to do this and the families do get excited, and while they're respecting social distancing, maybe the core family, grandparents show up, and then something gets handed back and forth. And going back to what Brent says, God forbid somebody got sick at a situation where I made a photograph. I wouldn't want that on my conscience, let alone the litigiousness of it.
Yeah, agreed.
And even on Petapixel, I was just reading this last night, the Canadian Photography Association is asking people to stop taking portraits.
Really?
Yes, for this very reason, because of contamination and risk to people that are immunocompromised.
We've gotten letters from our labs saying that, they had promoted it, in the beginning, thinking, because the warm, fuzzy thought of it all is a great idea, but the reality of it, getting so much feedback from other people, whether it was another photographer or people that were nurses that were married to photographers that were saying, this is not good, so I think that, it's one of those things where I wish we could all do it. And I think it's fun as far as like documenting the times, but set your iPhone camera on like cell timer and run up back on that porch and do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a time or place for.
I agree. I totally agree with you, Jennifer. And it's still something that I don't think when we get the all clear that everybody's going to run together, because we don't know what it's going to be like. Mm-hmm. And you could still do those type of portraits and photographs when the initial opening happens.
Exactly.
You've complied and in no way contribute to anybody's harm.
Yeah, so the heart is there, but the mind is saying, I gotta be smart.
I think the best thing that we can do in this time is to just, to look at our brand, look at our marketing, see what our website looks like, keep everything updated. Cry if you have to, I think we see so many people out there saying you need to be doing this and you need to be doing this and this, but I also feel like we need to be able to let it go and to get it out and to be worried if we have to, but hopefully not carry that on too long. But it's okay if you are, and it's okay to feel debilitated. Hopefully it's not too long and you can get out and you can start, working on some things that need to be done and marketing. And I know we're working on our website. Our business has been so comfortable and so well oiled for so many years that I've let go of everything, social media, website, because we've got a great business going and great work, and we service our clients really well. And, it's really kicked me in the butt to
and it's hard. It's hard to re-pull yourself together. And to have that ability to shed that light when you might not feel so much that way personally. But then once you do, you recognize how valuable it is to have that strength, because it does wear off, and you do recognize, hey, the truth is that, we can figure it out. We always have.
This is a great time to focus on SEO and things of that nature, because like you're saying, we built such a relationship-based business that we kind of really we just put that on the side because we didn't need to do that. This is a great time to dive into your SEO of your website and try to, boost things on that front too. So
yeah, I mean, you have the opportunity to be possibly ahead of those people that are more relaxing and panicking when this does end and when we come out the other side, which is going to happen. You have the ability to be literally in front of the pack at that point. If you set everything up right. Richard, by the way, so that everybody knows that was on Talking PPE, he's got his contact info if anybody has PPE questions in the queue.
Yeah, and we'll also put it in with the next today's program. Yeah.
Party animals over there.
Okay, so
speak.
So as we wrap it up today, I keep using Sergeant Esterhouse's quote from the old Hill Street Blues, is to everybody, just be careful out there. This is what's keeping a smile on my face. We'll be back. I'll put a posting up later for later in the week.
Hi, Sheila.
All right.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
This is Belle. She can't hear you because I got headsets on. That's Belle. This is Lucy. This is
Belle and Lucy.
Occupied. And at times they're cute as can be, and at other times they are a terror. But everybody.
Sheila, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you have two puppies.
Two at the same time, and they're both 9 months old, right? Okay. Anyway,
what's your puppy's name?
Thank you guys for joining us today. Larry, Steve, as always, Thank you. We'll be back with more. If anybody has any questions and issues that you really want us to address, we don't get a lot of traffic in terms of the total number of attendees at these things, but then when they get posted, people start to share them and talk about it. And I think it's a combination where everybody is right now on overload with anxiety and concern. And my advice to everybody is cut back on your intake of news. This is one where you got to do the things that protect you and your family, but it doesn't mean that you've got to take unnecessary risks. And there were some really good points about, you know, front porch portraits. And Richard had another comment about, you know, the hazard is difficult, that he's limiting his time in terms of other exposure because his wife is directly handling patients. And this is one of those things that can just spread. So everybody be careful, everybody be safe. Thank you, everybody. And just a reminder, you guys, we will all get through this if we just get through it together.
Yep.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.